Hey everybody, I'm your host, Allie. I'm so happy you're here. I want you to know that this podcast was designed to self-affirm and redefine all things you. The phrase I am has the power to define every part of you. Let's jump into this week's episode to discover your I am. Hey guys, welcome back to another week's episode on the I Am Lifestyle podcast. We are on season 3 and this is our 6th episode on the new season. I am so stoked. This season has been flying by. We've had so many exciting things to talk about. We've had a couple cool guests on here, and I've honestly had a blast just sharing life with you guys through this season and talking about all new things, encouragement, positivity, and kind of where we're growing through this season. So let's dive into another episode. I hope you guys are having a great week. And before we get started, I wanted to address that any of you guys watching on YouTube, hi, you will see that we have a new sign here for the Green Couch series. I'm so excited. We have a cool LED sign that spells out I am on it. It's here to kind of bring a little bit more ambiance into the Green Couch series. If you're watching online, you'll see that I'm actually sitting on a velvet green couch in my apartment that I also call my studio. So if you're listening in, you're listening right now to our podcast through the Green Couch series. And if you're watching right now, you can see the Green Couch. So welcome everybody. This week, I'm really excited to talk about today's episode. We are chatting all about the independent woman. I had something off script that I was going to talk about that I kind of scheduled, and then I was thinking about this last week that I had, and something close to my heart was talking and addressing the independent woman. So let's kind of dive into what is an independent woman? What does that mean? Are you her? Are you somebody that can relate to an independent woman? And also, are you somebody that's dealing with independent woman syndrome? So let's kind of jump into all of the good things because I've been inspired through this last week. And I'm excited to kind of talk to you guys about it because I'm definitely passionate about it and it's been on my heart. So alrighty, where do we even start with this? The independent woman. I think sometimes in society we say, I love a good girl boss. I love a girl boss moment. We support girl bosses, right? We root for women that are like independent, courageous, confident, on their own, know who they are, right? And then on the flip side of that, in the dating world, we get guys that'll say, I want an independent woman. I want a girl that knows who she is, a girl that has her own life, a girl that has her own story going for her, writing her own, story in her own book, all of that, right? And I'm just here to kind of break that stereotype because I'm calling out everybody here that's listening that says, I want an independent woman in my life, or I support independent women, and you do not. Or you're not ready for an independent woman yet, right? We say these things so casually, like I want someone in my life that knows who they are, or I want a girl boss moment, or I want to have my own life and have control of it. Snaps to that. Awesome. We applaud anybody that wants that energy in their life, but we cannot demand like a presence of that in our life if we're not ready to hold space for that, right? So we can kind of go about this in a lot of different ways, but let's first dive into if you personally feel like you're an independent woman or you are channeling the independent woman season of your life right now, okay? So for me, I'm going to personally speak on my behalf. I definitely am somebody that is an independent woman. So I live on my own. I work my own job. I definitely have my own things going for myself. I have different segments of my life that I love to share with people, but I also have other parts of my life that are really intimate to me, right? That are personal to me that I just want to spend time with on my own and do my own thing. And I think the art of becoming is something truly beautiful. I think when we talk about independence and what that looks like being a woman, it's very different than what it looks like as just being an independent person. So I'm speaking on behalf of a woman's perspective because this has really hit home to me this week. So when we're talking about an independent woman, I think what comes to my mind is somebody that, as women, we juggle all of these different tasks. We are all of these different people, or all of these different things to different people, right? We can really put on a hat at work that's like, hey, I'm going to be a girl boss, I'm going to be confident, and I'm going to be in more of like my masculine kind of personality. But then also I have that nurturing part of me, that super empathetic, compassionate part of me, that's more of my feminine side, right? And we learn how to kind of tap into these different sides. We learn how to wear different hats. We learn how to jump into different roles, however you want to word that over your life, right? But being an independent woman, truthfully, is somebody that I think is an individual that is proud to stand on their own, is somebody that understands the different roles that they have and is able to kind of switch the gears whenever they need to. I think also it's identifying what pace of life you're in. So in one pace, you might be going full speed. It might be a sprint. But then when you get home and you have to be more of that intimate, maybe like loving role of a mom, that's a little bit more of a slower pace, right? You have a little bit more time to take. Whereas maybe in a business setting, you're like, I got deadlines, I got to hit that, I've got to be professional, I got to pick up my chin, I can't let people see me cry, I can't let people see me fall, right? But then after work, when you're like that big, bold woman in the office, you're in your car and you're just kind of zoning, and you're just kind of listening to music. And maybe you cry. Maybe you have conversations with friends that you would never have with coworkers that are just vulnerable. Maybe you break down. There's different times where I think, honestly, the building of an independent woman is being all of these different things, not necessarily at the same time, but in the same day or even in the same hour strain, right? It's developing who you are as a person and understanding that you could be a lot of different things, but realizing when to be those things. I think that's powerful. I'm going to kind of go back and repeat that because that just struck home to me. And that is definitely what I'm trying to get to you guys as the audience of listening in, is realizing that us as women, we play so many different roles and they're so great. I love every role that I am in my life. I love being a coworker. I love being a friend. I love being a sister. I love being a daughter. I love being an aunt. I love all of the different things, right? But the real power lies in when I can be each role efficiently, right? At work, it's hard for me sometimes to be a daughter because I'm a coworker and I am in meetings and I'm in deadlines, right? But when I'm off work, I can totally be a daughter. I can totally be a sister. I can totally go to those events or, go cheer on my siblings in their own things and endeavors, right? And celebrate other people. But when I'm at work, I'm a whole different person, right? And I want to explain this too, because it's not like we switch our personalities and we're totally different. It's just realizing the strength of our presence and what presence we're going to be in that moment. And so that goes into really understanding, like, okay, if you're an independent woman and you say, awesome, I want to be all of these things on my own and I don't want to rely on anybody and I don't want to be dependent on anybody. I want to be independent, right? And I think in society, we structure it as this really aggressive thing. And I think truthfully, an independent woman can be very dependent on different people, on different circumstances, on different things, but when chosen to, right? So I know for me, I used to struggle because I hated being dependent on anybody or anything. It just, to me, being dependent was like a sign of weakness. And I always wanted to hold my own power and do my own thing and never let someone come into my life and like take that power away, right? That was like a huge trigger for me. And it's actually truthfully something I still work on. But it's funny because I was actually talking to my life coach and we were chatting about the power and the beauty behind dependency. And we talked about like, oh my gosh, Allie, no, you are super dependent on different things, right? You're dependent for sure on, this is kind of a silly example, but when I go grocery shopping, I'm dependent on that store to have food to feed me that I'm going to buy, right? I drive to the store knowing that they're going to have food that I have on my list to buy. And then I'm going to get in my car that I'm also dependent on to work and turn on and drive me home, right? We think of this dependency as I'm going to rely on a man to take care of me. I hate that, right? And you're like, whoa, back up. Why are we even talking about guys? Why are we even defining dependency only to a man or only to a person? We're dependent on things all the time. I think emotionally, I'm dependent on my parents to support me when I'm really like sad. I'm dependent definitely on my mom if like I feel like maybe somebody backstabbed me and I want her to be that support to me, and I want her to be like, yeah, you're right, Allie, like you're a better person, right? I definitely get hit with and convicted with that, where I'm like, I'm always dependent on, friendships to support me and family to be there for me when I need them to be, and vice versa, right? And so I think also being an independent woman is realizing when to be dependent, when to know when to tap out. Okay, let's review kind of that, because that's also really important. I think an independent woman knows her strengths and knows her weaknesses. This is a powerful thing to realize when you're kind of growing into who you want to be and who you are becoming. Because I will be the first to tell you that I love to try to learn new things. I love to try to do different things and be involved with everything. But I'm also the first to tell you that I'm just not the best at X, Y, and Z. I am also the first to tell you that, hey, if you got an event that starts at 6 a.m., probably not gonna be my most perkiest, right? Because I'm not a morning person, and that's just me knowing my role and knowing kind of like who I am as a person, what I'm really good at, what I'm not really good at, things that I really shine in and things that I don't. Like, for example, I went to school and math was always hard for me. And owning a business, I run my own books and logistics and all of that. I'm not really a logistics person though. So when I run my business, I try to build a team and surround myself with people that know how to do numbers a little bit. That can help me with my QuickBooks. That can help me with taxes. That can help me really crunch down numbers and go over profit margins and things like that, right? Because I know that I'm more of a creative brain. I could come up with a collection and have the vision behind how I'm going to present that, but I'm not the best at all the back scenes of things. I also kind of talked about, I think last week, about how in marketing, I love coming up with new things. I love pitching new ideas, but I'm not always the best executor or detail-oriented person, right? So I can say, this is how I want it to look. This is kind of the idea and the vision behind it, but I'm not going to be really that great at understanding, okay, well, here's all the really nitty-gritty details. And that's just like the power behind honestly failing and learning from those failures. I've learned from things that I'm like, this makes me feel really uncomfortable. I don't like it. Or, man, that experience was great, but I think I would have been better if I had just done this, or if I had just stuck with this, right? And so, friends, that kind of goes back into creating that true independence of who we are, because I really think an independent woman knows who she is and can stand alone in that. And honestly, if you're listening in, I challenge you to really view yourself in your life and say, am I an all-around independent woman, or am I maybe just independent in this way of my life? And maybe should I strive to be independent in this, right? And that goes back to the power of what are we dependent on? Not independent, but dependent on. And maybe there's like a area in your life where you're like, gosh, I'm really dependent on this, and I need to move that into independence. And I need to get a little bit more oomph into owning that season of my life, or that area of my life, or that area of contacts or relationships or things like that. Now I want to kind of turn the tables a little bit and talk about the independent woman through a man's perspective, okay? Because this is something that has kind of really hit home to me this week, where I'm like, gosh, I'm in this season right now of singleness, and I hear all these things about guys on social media or guys in interviews or whatever, and they talk about, oh my gosh, I love an independent woman. I love a girl that knows what she wants. I love a girl that is determined, and all of these things. And I'm just here to call you out, because I don't see a lot of guys asking a lot of independent girls out. I see a lot of guys asking girls out that are very yes women to them, that are very go with the flow, whatever, happy to be here, hanging out, I'll do whatever you want to do. I don't have a job that's serious, so I'll just throw it out the window, do whatever you want to do. A side piece. Friends, I'm here to tell you, there's nothing wrong being a side piece. I've had seasons in my life where I have definitely been that girl that didn't have very strong priorities in my life when I was younger, and I was able to just be that go with the flow girl. And I still am that go with the flow girl. I love it. I love to have a good time. I'm definitely a free spirit. But I think as I've grown, I've had to really create my own life, because I've never really had a life to create around anybody else. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but I'm 23, so being in your early 20s is the weirdest time of your life, and you're trying to figure out all of these things, and you're kind of demanded to also be in all of these different roles and to be successful in all of these roles. And then on top of it, you're trying to figure out almost like this dating scene that you're just like, I honestly have no feeling that any guy right now is into an independent woman. I think that would intimidate them. I think that would scare them right now, because I haven't met a whole lot of guys that are my age that are willing to deal with the truth behind an independent woman. And I'm not here to offend anybody. I'm not here to call out guys as one thing, because there's amazing guys out there and there's amazing women out there, right? But I'm just telling you kind of the importance behind how I've felt through the independent woman and the true power behind that, because I think a true independent woman will disregard, you know what, if a guy can't keep up right now, that's okay. I'm still trucking. I'm still doing my thing. And somebody eventually will catch on to that, right? So no way is this a hateful, girls over guys or guys over girls, stereotypical, nothing. This isn't even a feminist movement. This is me just being super vulnerable with where I'm at mentally. And I'm hoping that someone listening in can kind of relate, because I think so many times we just carelessly say things that are like, oh yeah, I would love a girl that has her own life going for her. But then you're saying that and you don't. You don't even have your own life going for you. So you're trying to tap in now to somebody else that has their own things going. We expect you to have your own things going because that's what we're doing, and you don't, and you let us down. Or you pull us down with you. And an independent woman will not allow that to affect her, but it'll still leave a burn, right? Because then now we feel, is it me? Should I lower my standards? Should I slow down my pace so people can catch up? Should I, tone down a little bit of who I am? Am I too much? Am I too intense? Am I too, of a bold presence? And friends, this is where women get knocked down into saying that I'm too much role. I hate that. I actually listened to this really cool TikTok audio. It was really, really impactful on my life. And it was this girl talking about how a lot of times we say to women, you're too much, right? We don't hear this a lot on guys, but a guy could be too much for sure. But let's kind of dive into the woman. So when we say, oh my gosh, that girl is too much, too loud, too whatever. The audio that I had heard, it was really cool because it challenged that, well, what is too much? Are her dreams too much? Is her laugh too loud? Is her heart too big? Does she care too much about people, right? And we start to evaluate what's wrong with that. Why do I have to tone down my laugh to then be in a room that makes everyone else feel comfortable? Why do I have to make my heart smaller because everyone else can't love as big as me, right? And we go into these really submissive roles where we're just so suppressed because of who we truly are. We feel like that doesn't adapt to anybody else in our group, and we tone ourselves down for that. And that kind of goes back into a couple weeks ago. We just talked about how, honestly, we're afraid to dream too big because we get shot down. We're afraid to live too large because we don't think anyone else will understand or want to live that life with us. And that gets lonely. What a lonely time to live when you feel like no one can relate to you. That is, friends, also what builds an independent woman. I've been in a huge season of singleness, and I don't want to say that singleness is associated with loneliness, because it doesn't ever need to be associated with that. But I've definitely had moments where I've had to stand on my own, and that's felt lonely. I've definitely been in rooms where I feel like no one understands me and my approach to things. That feels lonely. I've definitely had circumstances where I've really had super huge success and high highs, and no one to share that with as a partner. That's lonely, right? So we talk about these feelings of loneliness. It doesn't need to be a negative thing. It's something that can create hope. I'm excited to share those success and high highs with someone in my life one day. And I'm so grateful that it's just me right now that gets to experience that. I love spending time with myself. I have loved forming a life that I love, truthfully, on my own. I love just being in my own space and like laughing, right? And just being like, oh my gosh, That was funny. That made me laugh. Like, I'm hilarious, right? And like, I love my own style. I love that I get to do things and just don't apologize for it. I'm unapologetically me. That is what goes into creating the independent woman. So let's talk about not just guys or, people that can't adapt to that. Let's just talk in general about people. Because I think this is really important. When you're viewing somebody that's an independent woman, you have no idea how that feels when you're somebody in a role in their life that doesn't accept that or doesn't understand that, right? I don't think truthfully we have to understand everything to accept things. I think that's kind of where love comes in. I know for me, like having only brothers, there's some things that like my brothers will do that I'm like, what the heck? And I'm talking to my parents, I'm like, is this a phase? What's going on, right? And I just accept it because I love them. Because there's somebody that's important in my life. There's somebody that will always be in my life, right? And I don't have to know everything. I don't need to figure everything out. I just have to accept it and tell them, hey, I'm always here to support you. I'm always, here for you. But that doesn't mean that I need to like really understand truthfully where they're taking that stance on or why they made that decision or why they're dating that person or why they, recovered from a breakup this way or got that tattoo or that random piercing. It doesn't even matter, right? I just accept it because I love them and they hold a huge presence in my life, right? So for that woman, that independent woman kind of image, we have to, friends, as a community, accept that. And we have to stop asking why they do what they do that way, why they're okay being confident on their own, why they're so independent, why they would rather hang out with themselves and maybe not a group of people. We need to, here's a great one, why they're single. I get that all the time. Well, why are you single? Are you not dating? Are you like someone behind closed doors that's like controlling and that's why no one's with you? Are you somebody that is a tease? Do you just say no to guys? Is that you chose to be single? I get this all the time. And I'm here to tell you guys, it's kind of on a reverse, giving you an inside scoop on what it's like to be a single girl in your early 20s as an independent woman. It sucks. And like nothing that someone asks you about being single makes you feel good about yourself. When I am like kicking ass at my job and I'm having a great day and I'm like, awesome, completed that deadline, just did this, crushed that, owning my own small business as well, coming out with a new collection, being creative here, also really, really getting into new friendships and having a great time and building this home in this new place that I'm at. And then somebody says, why are you single? Wow, friends, that comes full circle of why does it matter to you? Is everything else in my life not mattering that you think I need somebody on my side to make that matter? You asking me why I'm single at work just took away all the success that I had at work. Because you're not focusing anymore on who I am as a person on my own and what I can do and the power that I hold. You're focusing now on what I would look like if someone was next to me. Or what that presence of that person would do in my life because I'm not enough to just stand on my own. And I know that as friends, we casually say things like, oh my gosh, I'm going to set you up with so-and-so, or oh my gosh, you need to come on a double date with me, or I'm going to just put you together with someone so you're not third wheeling, right? And we do these things and we say these things and we think it's making someone feel better. And that's okay. Like, I get it. Like, I've been on the other side of being a friend where you're like, I just want everyone to feel comfortable. I don't want someone to feel like that third wheel or whatever. But speaking on like a perspective of being that girl that's constantly always like the third wheel or, kind of just hanging out, that sucks. Like, you feel like you're not enough on your own or that your presence isn't big enough to fill a space with you and another person, that you need someone else to complete you, right? And I know that's not everyone's intentions, and so you accept that with grace. But when someone asks you that, it sucks. And you almost think of, then is an independent woman looked at differently than an independent man? Because I don't think at the end of the day, and once again, I'm not trying to be like this huge feminist podcast. I'm not hating on anybody. I love guys, love girls, love people. But if you really evaluate it for what it is, I see a lot of times in business, you see a guy's success and you expect that, right? And then you see a woman's success And that's more celebrated because it's kind of out of the rarity, right? Fine, whatever. But when a guy's successful and is single, you never really question why he's single. When a girl's successful and single, you always question why she's single. And when your friend's in a room and that's asked or challenged publicly, that's humiliating. Because you're like, why does a relationship need to define me and my circumstance right now? And also on the flip side of that, it's not like someone's knocking down my door right now either, right? What do you answer to that? You're like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I've turned down 10 people this week and that makes me feel great about myself. No, it's not like something that you're fully in control of. And I think that's a podcast for a different time. But it's like, we need to be better about being transparent with people and just saying, hey, I think you're really cool. I want to get to know you more. Let's hang out. Not everything needs to be that serious, but not everything needs to not be super serious, right? It's that balance of, sure, I would love to hang out with you. Let's do it. And then you talk about important things. You talk about things that you love in your life. You get to know somebody. That's a conversation. And that is powerful, right? But now in this generation, I don't even think dating is really a thing anymore, which is sad because I'm very traditional and I love dating. I love getting to know people. I love living life with people and creating those connections, right? But now you don't even see anybody dating anymore. They're just like, oh, we went out for drinks and now we're boyfriend and girlfriend. And you're like, wow, that was fast. That just took away entirely what a relationship is like. No, I want someone to pick me up and open my door for me and buy me flowers and let's go to dinner and let's chat. Let's, hang out and talk about dreams, talk about goals, talk about how we can support each other in each other's lives, and then evaluate from there. Is that somebody that I want to have in my life as a serious partner? Or is it just somebody that I want to be a friend with, right? Not everything needs to move that fast, but not everything needs to move that slow either. I think it's finding that happy medium. So let's backtrack a little because this could turn into its own separate episode of dating advice from Allie. And it's not that at all because I'm not the end all be all opinion. However, let's go back into that independent woman perspective, right? So when we're that independent woman, picking up our chin and realizing like what our standards are, what our morals are, going on a date and realizing that, hey, at the end of this, I am strong enough in myself to say this worked for me or it didn't work for me, right? We're never forced to go on a date with somebody. We're never forced to go on a second date with someone if we don't want to. But then as a woman, we're branded as, oh, we're a tease for that. Or, oh, you just used me, right? But then if we go on that second or third date and then we say 4 weeks down the line that I'm not really interested, then, oh my gosh, you used me. Or why didn't you tell me sooner? It's never anything that's like helpful. So I want to speak to that woman that feels like I'm courageous and confident on my own, but I'm scared to be that to other people. Because I've been their sister, I have been that girl, and I'm still that girl sometimes where I'm like, I'm scared of the dating scene. It's easier to be single because I don't want to be that girl that feels bad for telling somebody that, hey, you're not really vibing with me. Or, hey, I really need a guy to be this, and I don't know if that's you. And feeling confident in that and not feeling mean when saying that. Because why is that mean? We expect and we want people to be truly themselves. We ask that of people. And then when they actually are, we call them a bitch. Or they're too honest. Or they're too much. Or bold. Or whatever you want to say, too forward, right? They go, oh, whoa, this wasn't a date. And you're like, really? It wasn't a date? Well, you picked me up and bought me flowers and bought me dinner. What was I supposed to expect? And then they make you feel dumb. Okay, we've all been there. I know all of you guys maybe listening are like, yeah, I could think back to a night where that was, and it's triggering, right? But I encourage you ladies that are listening, don't let that shake you. Brush it off. Ew, wash that t-shirt you were wearing when that happened. That's a disgusting presence. Ew, you do not want that in your life. Brush it off, girl. Pick your chin up, throw your shoulders back, and walk into that room and own it. And still be kind to that person. We all know he's probably talking shit. It's okay, because we don't care. That is the power of an independent woman. And friends, I'm here to tell you that is scary to people. It's okay to be an intimidating presence to somebody. And you don't need to be an intimidating presence and be mean. I think sometimes we think intimidating, like, that bold, whatever presence that just says whatever they want to say and can cuss somebody out and slam a door. And then we all are just kind of sitting there and we're like, ugh, that was weird. Or an intimidating presence could be somebody that's just talk, bye, and never let you got a word in and just threw things at you and you're just supposed to kind of take it, right? It doesn't need to be like that. I think an intimidating presence can be very kind-hearted, can be very slow to speak, can be somebody that, in one way can be a leader, but in another be a follower and be like a really strong follower, right? I think that is more of roles we need to tap into and be aware of. Because I know for me, I was just talking about this with my friend the other day and I'm like, why hasn't anyone asked me on a date? Like, are they scared of me? Is my presence intimidating? And she said to me, she was like, a single woman like you is intimidating. You've got your own life. You're doing your own thing. And instantly I questioned that role of intimidation. And I'm like, well, I'm not intimidating. I smile at people. I say hi. I ask them how they're doing. I care about people. I live life with people. And she was like, that's not intimidation though. She's like, intimidation is you know who you are. And you would be able to jump out of a circumstance super easy and still be the same person. To somebody that's not as strong as who they in themselves is scared of that, right? Because they're diving into something new, and from that moment on, they will be changed. But for you, you won't. You're not shaken. And I think that's something important to address. Is an independent woman too can be somebody that's just not really shaken a whole lot. Or they're shaken, but they don't show it. And shaken doesn't need to be a bad thing. I've had many circumstances in my life where I've really been shaken, but it's like grown and strengthened me. And I was grateful for that because I was like, all right, this is good. I need to be challenged in this way. I need to be challenged in more conversations that I have and my opinions and things that I say and things that I perceive, right? I need to be challenged in how I love people more and receive people in my life and things like that. And so, it was really on my heart to kind of talk this week just about who that independent woman is and what that looks like for you. Because I also think too, an independent woman can be that woman that's a mom, that's a wife, that's working a job for somebody else, that is all of these different things that you are dependent on. Being a mom, oh my gosh, you are dependent highly sometimes on other people in your life. I know your kids are dependent on you for sure. You could be dependent on your husband. You could be dependent on your job for an income to feed your kids. You could be dependent on your home to keep your kids warm and have a place to have their head, right? As a mom, you're so many different roles and you're just spread so thin. But to back that up, I think a mom is a perfect example of an independent woman. Because she's somebody that knows what it's like to create life on her own. She knows what it's like, even though she has people all around her supporting her, hopefully. She knows what that's like to be on her own and to form her own opinion and then to raise that opinion, right? Snaps to that. Because I think we need to redefine how we view independence. I don't think independence needs to be someone that's single. I actually had a conversation with my friend the other night and she really challenged me. And, I was like, gosh, I'm really down in the dumps. Like, I feel like I've been living my life and this last week has been heavy on my heart that it's just me. And I wish I could celebrate that with somebody. I wish I could share that with somebody, right? But I know that I have a lot of things on my own that I want to still do before I'm with somebody. And she was like, Ellie, you still can do those things being with somebody. And she's like, I never want you to lose track of who you are, because even if you're in a relationship and you start to share life with somebody, you still are that independent, like badass girl that you are. You will always still have your business. You will always still have your job. You will always still have your independence in your own life and your own opinions and your own loves and likes. Why? Because you created that future for yourself. You created that presence for yourself. And that goes into the power of knowing exactly who you are when you want to be that person. Because we can tap into, I really want to be a loving individual for somebody. And I can be really submissive and I can be very loving and tenderhearted and really caring. And I can just be that person that can be a side support to someone. I love being that for someone. I've loved supporting and being on the cheerleader kind of sidelines for anyone that needs support and cheering on, right? But then I can snap back into also being my own bold presence and not being a cheerleader, but being on the front line and being on the field and actually playing. It's all of these different roles and realizing that none of them really stop. We just are switching gears into like what we want to do. That's important to realize too, is when you're living your life as an independent woman, you never have to say no to anything. You just have to kind of understand what holds the most power in your life, and when you're going to tap into that. Because you never ever have to say no. You never have to let go of something that is truly on your heart. And if you're with somebody that makes you feel that way, that might not be it for you. Especially if you're an independent woman. You'll never ever settle with somebody that makes you feel like, oh man, I have to be suppressed in what I'm doing. Or I can't be any more a loud voice. Or I can't speak up and share my opinion. Never once would an independent woman let themselves get to a place like that. And I also want to address, friends, that I've grown into different roles in my life. I've definitely had my fair share of sitting in those rooms where I felt like I wasn't allowed to share my opinion, or that my opinion didn't matter, or that what I thought was important to my life wasn't as important to anybody else. And then I let that thought and opinion of somebody else control how I viewed my life and what was important to me. And I changed my priorities, right? And I want to also talk about how long that took to heal from. And I'm grateful I went through that, but I wish I never did, right? Because it took so much time of like getting my power back and figuring out who is Allie and who does she want to be and who are we going to regrow. It took so much time to also form those people's opinions in that stage of my life to be an opinion now that views me as an independent woman when I wasn't. I think that's important too, because we go through stages of life where we blossom into something new, and that goes into the power of becoming, which I had talked about at the beginning of this episode. And we forget that we will still run into people that remind us of our past, that remind us of who we were when we were weak, or who we were when we lost power. And I'm here to challenge you guys that when you run into that person, but you've grown and you've become something new, it doesn't put you back into that space of who you were when you were with them. It almost is showing you like a full circle of, I'm proud of you. You grew out of that. You're a new person now. Wow. Look at who you've become. Power of becoming. Snaps to that. Because I've lived through that. And that's tough. It's tough to look back and see sometimes the sadness you lived through, or the pain you allowed yourself to have, the energy that you created towards people that are no longer in your life. And that sucks. But I'm here to explain to you guys that, like, don't sit in that. Rejoice in that. Because thank God I woke myself out of that. And I built a new kind of wave into a new future for myself from that. That's truly what created me to be an independent woman. Because I no longer wanted to live my life for anybody else. I was living my life for me and the Lord. And I had finally figured out the strength to form my own opinion and be proud of that opinion. To own my own laugh and love my own laugh and laugh on my own. I didn't need someone to tell me a joke to make me laugh. I told myself a joke, right? And we get through these things of like, an independent woman is one to be celebrated. It's not one in society to be intimidated by. It's not one in society to like try to break down and make like everybody else. It's one to be celebrated. And I want to like kind of finish on that note, because I think that's really the true understanding of this episode, is being an independent woman, becoming an independent woman, or aspiring to be an independent woman is one to be celebrated. We are here on this podcast to support you guys in any season of life that you're in. And if anyone wants to talk more about that independent woman, or if you feel like, gosh, this independence is lonely, comment in the section below. Reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to support you. I would love to talk to you. I would love to be your friend, because I've lived through that. I'm still living through that. And every day I have to pump myself up and just say, own it, Allie. Own who you are. Keep your chin up. Audience of one. It might just be me, myself, and I. But I am so excited for that, because I enjoy spending time with myself. I enjoy living life with myself. And anyone that wants to join on with that, happy to have them. but that never alters who I am and who I view myself as, right? That's the true power behind today's message, guys. I'm so excited to have this episode air with you guys, start off your week with you guys. I hope it encouraged you. I hope it didn't intimidate you. And I hope you can share this maybe with a friend that needs a little bit of love, that might be in that independent phase or might be going into that. Empower them through this. I hope you guys have a great week, and we will catch back up next week with another episode. Bye, guys. Alrighty, that was so much fun. But before you leave, if you want to leave us a review, please leave a comment and click the like button on whatever platform you're listening to. If this episode empowered or encouraged you in any way, share it with a friend. I'll see you back here next week with another episode. Have the best week ever.